Erev Tov, everyone. It is Wednesday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the Maimon Beit Knesset, therefore it must be the Torah study in depth with Rabbi Aryel and Rabbi Ancel. And speaking of Rabbi Ancel, let's put his picture up here, and then we'll bring him in. And you are live, sir.
Erev Tov, everybody. I hope everybody's well.
Yeah.
Let's study a little bit of Torah.
Yeah. Today being the birthday of the state of Israel.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's 3,000 years old.
Yeah.
But
Eretz Israel is, but the state of Israel is what, 74?
74.
74.
I've always wondered why they call it the state. It's a country, but they call it the state. Eretz, state of Israel.
Yeah, I don't know. Why did they call it a duchy?
Yeah.
I don't know who comes up with these things anyway.
In the Hebrew, it makes sense because Eretz Israel is the land of Israel.
Right.
Okay? So they translated it to the state of Israel. It's wrong, but who am I to judge?
Yeah, let me... Okay, so we got that going again. Okay, so we're going to continue our study of the Sefer Shemot, Exodus. We are currently on Parsha Kitasa, chapter 32, and we left off last week at verse 15, and that's where we're going to pick up tonight. So let's see. So Moshe turned and descended from the mountain with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hand. Tablets inscribed on both of their surfaces. They were inscribed on one side and that. So, Rashi goes on to say,
from both their sides, the letters could be read. This was a miraculous phenomenon. Like we were talking about, if you look at it the other way, it'll look backwards. But I guess because it was a miracle that you could read them on both sides the right way.
Well, let's see. Yeah, and that's the question. What was the stone that was made of? What is it like a?
It could have been quartz.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking, because then you could get that. What do they call it? Where the light comes in and it splits it into the. Oh, what do they call it? I just had it in my head and it jumped right out of my head.
Diffusion.
But there's a certain way of cutting quartz or glass or something like that to be able to do that. And it begins with a P, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it is.
We'll both remember it.
Yeah, but I was wondering, okay, so if it was something like that, then I could see where it could be that way, and be on one side and be able to read it on the other side, and it makes sense. Because it would actually bend the light in such a way that it would actually...
Like you're talking about like prismatic?
There you go. Thank you. Prism. So if the rock was made like a prism...
Yeah, then you could read it both sides.
Right, yeah, because it's passing through, as the light is passing through it, it could actually invert the image back the right way.
Yep. So from both their sides, the letters could be read. Like I said, it was miraculous. Now the tablets were God's work, and the inscription was God's inscription engraved on the tablets. So Rashi says about God's work that it is to be interpreted according to its apparent meaning, that he personally made them. Another interpretation, like a person who says to his friend, also, and so, activities are in such a way that, or a kind of work, so too all the delight of the Holy One, blessed be He, is with the Torah. Engraved. The term harot or tarot are one and the same. Both are an expression of engraving. And Taylor of the Old French, which is entailler in modern French, meaning to engrave.
Okay, so the further commentary on this, you kind of jumped ahead on me here. Okay, so the further commentary on this, going back to verse 15, which was talking about it was legible on both sides. Further commentary says, this is from Tractate Shabbat, Folio 104a, on both of their surfaces, on this side and on that, appears redundant. Rashi explains that this wording teaches us that the tablets were engraved in a miraculous fashion. The letters of the tablet penetrated from one side to the other. This much is implied by on this side and on that. On both of their surfaces teaches us that even when viewing from the rear, the individual letters were facing the right direction, although they were in reverse order. This was a miracle, and I would have to agree. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so this going on to verse 16, this French word, entailler. Entailler. Okay, so in modern French, entailler, to cut into, to gash. The old French word tailler, to cut, is the source of the English word tailor.
Mm-hmm.
That is one who cuts cloth. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so let's go on to verse 17. Joshua, let me go ahead and scroll that up for you. Whoop. Yeah. Okay. Joshua heard the sound of the people in its shouting, and he said to Moshe, the sound of battle is in the camp.
And so Rashi says, and they're shouting, for they were shouting, rejoicing, and laughing. The Israelites were so loud that they could be heard even from a distance.
Yeah, obviously. Some editions read, it's of kim, and crying out. That's again, this is the editions, the Rashi editions, and again, we know there are several editions, not only the one that we're reading from, but the Alphabet's edition, and there's another edition. I think there's 3 editions altogether, isn't there?
Yep.
Okay. So, and just some subtle variations from one to the other. That being one of them. Okay, so verse 18. He said, it is not the sound of shouting of might, nor the sound of shouting of weakness. A distressing sound do I hear.
It is neither a voice of shouting victory. This voice does not appear to be a voice of the shouting of the heroes crying victory, or the voice of the weak soldiers crying, woe, or flee. A voice of blasphemy. The Hebrew word is kolanot, a voice of blasphemy and reviling, which distresses the soul of one who hears them when they are said to him.
Okay, so further commentary on this one. Let's see.
The stress in Hebrew is hameonim.
Okay, so the further commentary has to do with this distressing sound. And coming from Shemot Rabbah, chapter 41, verse 1, the spelling of Ein Nun Vav Tav appears 3 times in our verse, but the vocalization changes. The first 2 times, the spelling Anot with the Chataf Patak under the Ein, and without a Dagesh in it. In the Nun. Okay, the third time it is spelled Anot with the Patak under the Ein and a Dagesh in the Nun. Both the Anot and without the Dagesh and the Anot with the Dagesh are infinitives. Mekor. The root of Ein Nun Hey. Unlike most roots, the root Ein Nun Hey does not have the same meaning in all constructions. In the call, the root word means to answer or to call out. In the PL, it means to distress. In the Hitzpael, it means to fast. So the Ein Nun Hey is a verb, i.e., the third root letter is the Hey, which drops out of most conjunctions. Usually, the makor of such verb root in the simple call is a sheva under the first root letter. For example, panot, turning, or from the root pe nun he. However, since the ayin does not take a sheva, the makor of ayin nun he is a note with a kataf patak in place of the sheva. Thus, a note is a makor of the call, and Rashi therefore interprets this form as shouting. Okay, in the intensive PL, the makor of the lamed hey verb is vowelized with the patak under the first root letter, such as panot, from the root pe nun he. Additionally, some L is an intensive form of the second root letter, and the second root letter takes a dagesh. Thus, a note with the dagesh is a makor in the Pale, and Rashi interprets it as distressing. Wow, I'm glad we got through that.
Distressing is hameonim. It is confusing.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Oh man. So. Okay, so we're on to verse 19 now. Verse 19, it happened as he drew near the camp that he saw the calf and the dancers that Moshe's anger burned. He threw down the tablets from his hands and shattered them at the bottom of the mountain.
So, and he flung from his hands. He said to himself, in regard to the Passover sacrifice, which is maybe one of the commandments, the Torah said, no strange one may partake of it. Now that the entire Torah is here, the 10 Commandments includes the whole Torah, and all the Israelites and the apostates, shall I give it to them. At the foot of the mountain, Tachat Hahor is under the mountain, meaning at the foot of the mountain.
Okay, so this entire Torah here. Okay, now, which brings up an interesting point, because Rashi actually says it here that he's bringing down He's. Hang on. Just a second. Okay, so he's bringing down the tablets. And it says the entire Torah. Well, we know the tablets have what on it? They have the 10. Right?
Hmm.
Okay, so Maimonides made the statement that basically the 10 are all of the mitzvot, all 613 of them. That because every one of them can be connected, every single one can be connected to one of the 10. And Rashi actually went through and he delineated what each one of those were and how they were actually attached to each one of the 10. It's fascinating. Let's catch up with the chat room. We have Simcha is in the chat. Donald, Regina is with us, and Richard Ruttenberg, who does a lot of our lead-in music and graciously allows us to use it, especially Zeta's trip to Wohop. Or Zeta goes to Wohop. Excuse me.
Richard is a good man. I like him.
Yes. Hey, very talented too.
Mm-hmm.
We call him the maestro.
El Maestro.
So okay, so I just want to make that point here that Moshe is Rashi is saying that what Moshe is actually talking about is that this entire Torah here, and we know there's 10 on the tablets, and that Rashi or that Maimonides says that's because all the mitzvot can be attached to one of the 10. So okay.
That's one of the reasons Moses decided to write down everything, because since the tablets contain the whole Torah, he said people tend to forget. So he made sure that he wrote down the whole Torah.
Okay, so that brings up another point. Okay, it says that. Now I can't remember if I read it in the Talmud or what I read it, but it said that Moshe actually made 2 copies. He actually wrote down the Torah, and that was kept in the Aron. And the other one was for the people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he made 2 copies of it. Okay, so this is my this is my query for you. Okay, so if you look at your screen here.
Yeah.
Okay. What is this? Is this Hebrew?
No, because some of it is Hebrew, but most of it is Aramaic.
Okay, so
because if you read the Aramaic correctly in the way it's translated, it's a problem. Because if you what you underline, but the last 4 words in that little paragraph said, "Vaishaber Adam Tachat Hahar." He said he spoke to them, under the mountain. What do you mean under the mountain? Well, the mountain lifted up and he spoke to them? Well, so this is why translating Tachat means at the foot of the mountain, but it doesn't say it's at the foot of the mountain. Mm-hmm. That's translating any language from one language to another, it loses its sense.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because I have a copy, a Chumash, that has the interlinear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it has the Hebrew word and it has the supposedly direct translation under it. And I was wondering how accurate that was because you just brought it up. You said that Tahat means under the
Underneath.
mountain.
Underneath.
In the interlinear, it actually says what it says when we read it at the foot. So
Of the
even the
mountain.
interlinear is not matching here.
Okay, so you look at the line above. Vayichar af Moshe, and Moses saw the calf. Vayishlech mi Yudoi. Vayishlech is Vayishlach. It's to go or let go. But the translation from Aramaic, Vayishlech, means he flung them from his hands. Vaishalach, translated to Hebrew, is to go. They went from his hand. I mean, he let go. So it is very, very hard to really.
So the interlinear that I have here, it actually says, okay, so it says, and there flared up the anger of Moshe. He threw down from his hands the tablets and shattered them at the foot of the mountain. And then it goes into verse 20. Let's see what we have as far as further commentary. Okay, so this one has to do with. Okay. The tablets. Okay, why? He threw down the tablets from his hands because he said, "Now, if with regret, the Korban Pesach which is only one of the commandments, the Torah said, any stranger shall not eat it." With the entire Torah here. So regarding this, stranger shall not eat it. It says, the further commentary is basically, it's just Rashi explains that the verse includes the Meshumad who knowingly rejects the Torah. Okay. Yeah, all of Israel is Meshumad. Meshumadim.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, let's see. Is there anything else on here? At the bottom of the mountain, this means the foot of the mountain. Okay, here we go. Tachad here has the same meaning as Taktit.
Yep.
In 1917, above, the literal meaning is under the mountain, as you said.
Yeah, Tachad.
Yeah.
But if you were only to read the Hebrew or Aramaic part and not see the English, people right away would ask, "What do you mean? The mountain rose and they were under the mountain and he spoke to them?" Because if you literally translate it, that's what it means. Tahat Ahar means under the mountain, not at the foot of the mountain. But then, if you say, then they try to translate it, Tahat Hahar, La Rigle Hahar, which means at the feet of the at the foot of the mountain. So one is Regel, means the foot, and one says Tahat. They're not the same.
That's true. They're pretty much different.
Very, and that's what confuses.
Okay, but I want to explore this a little more here. Now, going back to this whole thing about Aramaic, okay, because again, as I was saying, Moshe Rabbeinu wrote 2 Torah scrolls. The Torah scroll that we read, we understand that is the one that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote for the people. So, is what he was, because Aramaic was the common language of the people, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so wouldn't he have written the second Torah in the common language of the people, so much as like we have in our book here, where it's actually written in English?
I would be second guessing him.
Hmm. I'm just bringing it as a point of discussion. So maybe the Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu first wrote.
Was in Aramaic, and that was in the
Well,
Aron.
no, I'm thinking that the first one that he wrote was actually in Hebrew, actually in the Hebrew, and the one he wrote for the people was in Aramaic so that they could understand it.
Okay, I'll agree to that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud because this is we've talked about Aramaic and I've asked you that question before about Hebrew and Aramaic, and it's just been rattling around in my head ever since.
So you look at, even if you look at the first line, Vahi ka'asher kuraf el hamachne vayar. Hamachne is usually, it's a camp, but usually hamachne, even nowadays, it means a war camp. Like, what do you call it?
Oh,
Where the soldiers are.
like a yeah. Oh, like a billet or a
No, it's a camp.
yeah.
It's a military station.
Yeah, I can't not think of what the term is.
Okay,
It begins with an S, I know that.
I'll get it. And
Okay.
but you have to be very,
Yeah, you
very.
wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning going, yeah, that was it. That was it.
But so you have to be very, very careful when you read it, and you have to have basic Hebrew to even try to tackle Aramaic.
Yeah, and that's something that a lot of people don't know is that a lot of our Siddur is actually in Aramaic.
Yep, and some Arabic.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, well, we found that in Rashi's commentary a lot, where he says, "Well, it's an Arabic word."
Tzedakah in Arabic is tzedakah.
Yeah,
There's a lot of words that. So, like I said, Saturday when the rabbi or whoever reads the Torah, highly unlikely that one person will not make a mistake. It's very unlikely.
yeah, we've actually
Sometimes,
discussed that before. That you're actually the reader, the Baal Koreh, is actually required to make it a mistake.
yeah, because whoever catches him, it's a mitzvah. So,
Yeah, so you're creating the opportunity for somebody to correct it. So,
correct.
Simcha is in the chat room and says, "Hello, Rabbi. Yehuda has agreed to watch the arithmetic video that I mentioned last night." She says, "I'm intrigued by the concept of the n square, really referring to the to an actual square, and." So yes, I posted it up in on my Facebook page that video that I was referring to last night, and again, understand that Rabbi Ginsburg is actually talking to, in this case, in the video, he's actually talking to middle schoolers. It's not high school kids. This is middle school kids that he's teaching this to. And he actually teaches in a school, he actually teaches third and fourth grade. And these are the things that he's actually teaching third and fourth graders. These are fairly sophisticated mathematical concepts. So,
That's scary.
pardon?
That scares me. It's. I don't think the child at that age, his brain is that evolved that they will understand it. Now, I'm not saying that there won't be one in a million that could do it, But I think the way they teach is the wrong way. You got to start from basics. You cannot just take a third grader or a fourth grader and start teaching them algebra.
Well, we don't know
If
what
you
they were
ask them
taught
what
before that.
algebra is, they wouldn't know.
Well, I say, we don't know what they were taught before that. And have you watched the video?
No, I haven't had a
Oh,
chance.
you should watch it because he really does break it down and very simply. It's very impressive how he does it, and again, all connected to Torah. So while they may not understand the whole concept at the time, they get enough of it so that when they get into higher grades and they start learning about this stuff, oh yeah, that's right. Rabbi Ginsburg talked about this.
Listen, to get the basics and to get an understanding of algebra, I don't see anything wrong with that. To get into it at that age, I think is wrong.
Well, we'll differ on that.
Were you taught algebra in grade 3?
No, I won because I had a secular education, so. Okay, so let's get back to the Torah here. Let me scroll this up for you.
Number 20.
Yeah, verse 20. He took the calf that they had made and burned it in fire. He ground it until it was fine powder and strewed it upon the water and made the children of Israel drink.
Kind of hard to find to grind gold to a powder, but it could be done.
Yeah, it's done. Yeah.
Yep. Vayizar, that means it's an expression of scattering. Similarly, brimstone shall be scattered in Israel, and the dwelling, and similarly, for the net is scattered without cause, for they scatter corn and beans on it, meaning the net, and gave it to the children of Israel to drink. He intended to test them, like women suspected in adultery are tested, as prescribed in Numbers 5, 11, 31.
Yeah, Soto.
3 different death penalties were meted out there. If there was witnesses to the worship and warning had been issued to the sinners, they were punished by the sword, according to the law. And that applies to the people of a city that has been led astray, who are many people involved. Those who practiced idolatry with witnesses, but without warning, die from a plague. As it is said, then the Lord struck the people with a plague. Those who practice idolatry both without witnesses and without warning, they die from dropsy. For the water tested them, and their stomach swelled up. And it's written in Jonah 66.
Yeah. So, further commentary on this one, going back to them being tested them like the Sotot Avodazara, folio 44a. Sotot were women suspected of adultery. Okay, moving on here to the next one. And okay, so in accordance with the law of the men of a wayward city, further commentary says, this is a city in which the majority of adult inhabitants have been induced to commit idolatry. Those guilty are put to death by the sword. Per Deuteronomy 13 through 19. Continuing on. You eating cookies again?
No.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, save me one. Okay, so the wayward city, who are many, Further commentary here says, here the law of mass violation of idolatry applied, namely the law of the wayward city. The penalty of an individual who commits idolatry is death by stoning, but that penalty does not apply here because of the large number of sinners involved. Brings to mind Tel Aviv, doesn't it? So, yeah, that's my own commentary. Okay, so continuing on, and it says, Hashem smote the people. Below verse 35, the root, Vegof? Vegof, yeah, he smoked. The Nun Gimel Feisamit. Boy, I am having a heck of a time getting my words out tonight. Safit, Pesafit. This is also the root of Magefa, plague. Magefa. Take the magnifying glass. Magefa, plague. Use of the word Vayguf, excuse me. Vayguf thus indicates that God struck them with a plague. Through the dropsy, the hydrocone, a disease that distends belly. Rashi to Berachot, folio 25a. This is similar to the death suffered by the Sota, who is guilty of adultery. And then finally, we have, oh no, that goes to the next one. Okay, so we're on to 21. Let me scroll that up for you. 21, Moshe said to Aharon, what did this nation do to you that you brought a great sin upon it? That's your cue.
What did people do to you? How many tortures did you, Aaron, endure that they tortured you until you brought the sin upon them?
Okay, so the further comment.
I don't think they tortured Aaron. Aaron just agreed with them.
Well, I think he just tried to delay him. Which he did a fairly good job of it, right up until the end. But the further commentary on that says, "What did this nation do to you?" is not to be interpreted as how did this nation sin against you. It would have been implied that Aharon led them to make the golden calf out of vengeance. Interesting. Okay, so verse 22, Aharon said...
Before you go there,
yeah.
And 21 says, Moses said to Aaron, what did these people do to you that you brought such a grave sin upon them? If you look at the right side, it says, Kahabeta Aleph Chata'a Gedola. What's Gedola means?
Great.
Big. Gadol.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
A big sin. Why doesn't the Rashi say that was a big sin? It says it was a grave sin. See the difference?
Well, yeah, I see the difference. But I mean, is grave get the point across better?
Yes, because a big sin could be anything, but when you perform a grave sin, it's a mortal.
It's way
sin.
worse.
It's a mortal sin. So I can tear the whole thing apart, translating it from Aramaic to the English. eventually you understand the Aramaic and you can then understand the English part. But there are some big, huge difference, because a big sin and a great sin,
Yeah.
as far as punishment, is totally different. When you commit a
Right.
great sin against God, it's death penalty. If you do a big sin, could be 50 lashes.
Right. Yeah.
So
Okay. So
maybe I'm picking too much.
no, I think it's good that we go into this. Yeah, I want I'll beat this Aramaic thing to death here. So now when we go into the Siddur, when we're looking at the Siddur and we have the Aramaic in there, that's actually even more drastically different than what we see in the Torah.
For sure.
So I mean, is this a kind of a case like, well, kind of like Japanese, where you have a formal way of writing, then you have an informal way of writing, and then you have a way of writing that are basically for women. They have kanji, hirakai. I can't remember what they all are, but they have three different alphabets, and actually, when you read modern Japanese, they kind of flip between all three of them at one time. But I'm kind of wondering if that's kind of like the case that we see here between, what is actual Hebrew as opposed to the Aramaic that we're actually reading in the Torah that we say is Hebrew, and the Aramaic that we read in the Siddur when it talks about, the Abraham and the
read the first word on line 22. Read the right side, the first two words.
Vayomer Aharon.
What does it mean?
Said Aaron.
Yeah. What does 22 say in English?
Aaron said.
No, Aaron replied.
Oh, well, in mine it says Aaron said.
What I'm reading says Aaron replied.
So,
Let
well,
not
hang
my
on.
Lord
Let me see what it says in my other one here. What's this happen to Aharon? Okay. Yeah, it says the same thing in my Chumash. Vayomer Aharon, Aaron said.
Yeah, but 22 is translated Aaron replied.
Yeah.
And not the same.
Well, Vayomer is actually said, right?
Correct.
It's not replied, it's actually said. Said Aharon.
Yeah, so.
Oh, Yahar Af Adonai. Adoni Ata.
Yeah.
Okay, so, so we're on to 23?
Yeah.
22. Okay, so let me check the time. Okay, we're at our halfway point here. Let's, we'll take our break here, let our minds clear a little, and we will be back. Let me take that down, and we'll be back in 6.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
And we are back with our in-depth study of the Torah. And let's bring, there we go. Let's bring Rabbi Ancel back in.
I am here.
And you are back, sir. Okay, so yeah, we were having a really interesting conversation during the break about how these what it actually says directly translated is not what we're actually reading either, in the English, but basically it doesn't change the meaning. It clarifies it a bit, but it doesn't really change the meaning.
Here's the problem: is we have people in the room that do not speak Hebrew, or most likely they don't speak Aramaic. If they didn't have the English, they wouldn't be in the room, and they wouldn't be learning anything because they don't understand. What you and I are trying to tell them is that some of the words that are in Aramaic translated to English are different, but with the same meaning.
Yeah, and you made a point of that with, actually this next verse that we're going to read. So let's go on to it. So in my translation, it says, Aharon said, let not my master's anger burn. You are aware that this nation is in a bad state, which is kind of different than what it says in the Chumash and different than what you have here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in yours, it actually says, let not my Lord's anger grow hot. You know the people that they are disposed towards evil.
Yeah.
But when you get into the
Hebrew,
when you get into the Aramaic, it says,
Vayomer Aaron. Aaron said. He didn't reply. He said.
Yeah.
And he says, Ata af yodati ani ata yodati ki ha'am ki barahu. He says that you know that your folk, your people, are straying away. But translated, they're saying that they are disposed towards evil. You get the same translation, the same meaning, but different words.
Yeah.
What the right side says doesn't really match the left side. But in final answer, it's the same meaning.
Right, and we've seen that before. We've seen that before in Rashi commenting on things where it says, well, this is spelled this way here, but it's spelled differently here, but it doesn't change the meaning. It doesn't change the meaning of the verse. So I think the way that it's written in the English is basically just trying to make it more understandable or clarify what it's actually trying to say.
Yep.
But it gets interesting when you get into it, though. So what does Rashi have to say about that verse 22? That's your cue.
Oh. It says that they are disposed towards evil. They are always going in a bad direction. Okay, so but derech ra, in the wrong direction, it is correct.
Uh-huh.
So, and testing the omnipresent.
Right. Okay. So, further commentary on this one says that Rashi points out that the phrase means that it is in a bad state rather than simply for it, the nation is bad. If it meant for it is bad, Ra, could not have a vet prefix. Interesting. So as I was looking at this, I said, Vara is evil, and Rashi is saying no, it can't mean that because Ra cannot have that vet prefix. Okay.
Ra means the bad way.
So,
but they're saying that they're going in a bad direction. Baderech Ra.
Okay, so there's no commentary on 23, so we'll go from, here we go, 23 to 24. 23, they said to me, make for us gods that will go before us, for this man Moshe, who brought us up from the land of Mitzrayim, we do not know what became of him. I'm actually surprised that there is no commentary on that.
Mm-hmm.
24, so I said to them, who has gold? They unburdened themselves and gave it to me. I cast it into the fire, and the calf emerged. That's critical. That's a critical statement in here.
Yeah, but there's questions. How did it emerge itself? What do you mean? It was alive?
Well, what does Rashi say?
Vayetze means, it came out. Vayetze he'egel hazeh.
Yeah.
It came out. I said to them one word only, who has gold? And not give me your gold. But they hurried and stripped themselves and gave it to me.
Yeah.
And I threw it into the fire. I did not know that this calf would come out, but out it came.
Yeah.
Like it was born.
Well, kind of like what happened with the menorah, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it emerged on its own. Well, let's see what we have in further commentary here is. As far as it goes with the gold and unburdening it, and them giving it to him, the further commentary says in these verses, Aharon is giving an excuse for having participated in the sin of the golden calf. But, and I said, who has gold, sounds like a reason why Aharon should be considered guilty rather than an excuse. Rashi explains that Aharon meant, I did not immediately work on making the idol. I asked them to collect gold, thinking it would stall them. Furthermore, Rashi points out that the Ifaraku, is not part of Aharon's statement to the Israelites. He did not say, who has gold, take it off. Were this word an imperative, it would have been vowelized. Oh my goodness. Hitparku.
But hitparku vayitni lo. Yeah, and they stripped themselves of the gold and they gave it to him.
Yeah, and I said to them, who has gold? They unburdened themselves and gave it to me, or stripped themselves and gave it to me. Okay, this whole thing about the calf emerging now. Okay, the further commentary says that although verse 4 says that Aharon did more than throw the gold into the fire, he did not know this calf would emerge. He thought that a simple metal image would emerge and that the Israelites would realize that it was not to be taken seriously, but he did not know that a calf that had in it a spirit of life would emerge. Okay, now I've heard a different story on this. I heard that because of the mixed multitude that Moshe Rabbeinu brought out of Egypt with him, that God has already reprimanded him for, that they had their magicians and necromancers and stuff like that, and they were the ones that caused the calf to emerge from the fire.
That's exactly what happened. And also, as you know, Moses allowed one of the Pharaoh's daughters
Yeah.
and her entourage to come to come with them.
Right.
And you had a lot of these medicine men, or whatever you want to call them, hocus pocus men, and maybe in those days they were able to do some of this stuff.
Yeah, it was
And
Pharaoh.
they're the ones who caused the evil that the calf should come out. And it came out.
Yeah.
There was no doubt.
Pharaoh's daughter, who drew Moshe Rabbeinu out of the Nile, she was the one that came out with them, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So she was part, and of course, being royalty, she probably had her retinue with her, and the mixed multitude who were professing themselves to be Jews that wanted to just get out of Egypt. Yeah. So. And again, God has already reprimanded Moshe for doing that. I think God, we know God knows everything.
Yeah,
giving Moshe a hint right off the bat.
3,000 years later.
Pardon?
This whole thing reflects 3,000 years later, today, with all the interfaith marriages. It's the same thing. It is the same thing. We're going on the wrong way. We're going on the wrong path, I should say. It is a wrong path. I find that most interfaith marriages very seldom work. Well, the wife says, I want to raise them Jewish. Husband will say, I want to raise them Catholic, or whatever. So they come to a compromise. We'll keep both.
Yeah.
What a confusion for the poor kid.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've seen that happen in the Reform congregation. That they go to Hebrew school on one day, and then they go to Sunday school at the church on another day, and one is contradicting the other one, and it is not good.
That's why Judaism makes it a command that when a couple or when adopt a child that is not from the Jewish faith, at the age of 18, they must disclose the fact that he is adopted. And at the age of 18, he can still say, I want to be Jewish, or do I want to follow my biological parents' religion? He has that choice.
Yeah, that's interesting, because when we were reading
other religion gives that choice.
When we were reading about the laws about children, the convert who has children, okay, and that the woman convert who has children already, and she converts, but her children don't, and then really the law doesn't say anything about the children after that. Doesn't say that they have to convert or anything like that, which kind of goes to what you're saying, that at 18 that they would have to make a choice.
Yeah, but they have a choice.
Yeah, they have a choice.
It's like I said, Judaism is the religion that bends the rule, doesn't break it, gives you a choice. You're an 18-year-old, you can make your own choice. No other religion will allow you to do that, you know.
Is it 18?
I'm sorry?
Is it actually 18?
Yes.
Because I was, based on reading the Torah, I would think that it would be 21 because that's when, that's when men are counted, you know, that's when they go out to the army. Is that 21?
In Judaism.
Right.
But we're talking now common law. I mean, English law, common law.
Uh-huh.
At the age of 18, you must tell him.
Okay, so this is
this is the secular time. This is the secular age, not the religious age. The religious age is at 21. The secular age is 18.
Uh-huh, yeah. Okay. So is this a rabbinical law that you have to tell them at 18?
Or it is a rabbinical law. It's not written in the Torah.
Okay. So it's not Torah based, but it's rabbinical based.
But it's only fair.
Oh yeah. I don't dispute that.
At 18, there's a lot of these children would like to know who their biological parents. They want to know why they were abandoned and the reason why.
Mm-hmm.
And and some of them, make up and they have a good relationship with the biological and the parents that raised them, because basically the real parents are the parents who raised them. But still, to know your biological parents and the reason why, it's something off your chest, something that people wonder who they are, why they gave me up, and that gives them closure, and that makes that person, I believe, whole again, so that life can go on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
especially for the child that's wondering, why is everybody in my family's hair black and mine red?
Yeah, I'm getting off a little bit of the topic, but it's the same thing, because this is exactly what we read, and this is how we learn, and this is how discussions go on, because you go from this point to this point to this point to this point, and you arrive not at a conclusion, you arrive at something that makes sense.
Okay, so let's go on here. So we'll go on to verse 25 now. Okay, verse 25. Moshe saw the nation.
Stood at the gate, yeah.
Pardon?
Okay, go ahead.
Moshe saw the nation that it was uncovered, for Aharon had uncovered them for a disgrace among those who rise against them. That's an interesting way to put it.
So Moses stood at the gate of the camp and said, "Whoever is for the Lord, let him come to me." And all the sons of Levi gathered around him. "Whoever is for the Lord to me, let him come to me." Vayomer Moshe b'sha'ar hamachne, vayomer mi zo ele, vayisufe elav kol b'nei Levi. And Moses said, Ba'asar hamachne, which is correct, which is at the gate of the camp. Vayomer mi zo, and he said, whoever is with me, whoever is with me, with God, come towards me, come to me. Because Moses already knew what was going to happen.
Yeah. So, you skipped the commentary on 25.
Oh, to be disgraced before their adversaries. that this thing should
so
be a
kinda short.
disgrace for them in the mouths of all who rise up against them. And the word in Hebrew is Le'shimsa Bekomehem.
Okay, so the further commentary on that one says, with regards to its stain and degradation have been exposed. From Numbers chapter 5:18, Rashi 2:5:4 above is presenting an opinion of Menachem ibn Saruk, interprets bara of our verse differently in apparent contradiction to his commentary here. Okay. And as far as the for a disgrace among those who rise up against them, further commentary says the enemies of Israel will disgrace them by referring to the sin of the golden calf, which makes sense. Okay, so let's get commentary for 26 up there for you.
Whoever is the Lord, come to me, let him come to me. All the sons of Levi, from here we learn that the entire tribe was righteous, and they came over to Moses' side.
So, further commentary on this one says, let them come to me, or let him come to me. Rashi interprets the Yavo, let him come, to prevent the misinterpretation of the clause as where whoever is for Hashem is also for me.
Okay, so now if we look at that sentence on the right side, Kol b'nei Levi, Meka'an, Shehal, okay, Hashevet Kasher. What's Kasher means? In Hebrew. Kosher.
Right, yeah.
Kasher means
No,
kosher.
I was trying to find it in the Humash here.
Okay. So they said that the whole tribe was kosher, was righteous. You know?
Levi, and that's the 27. Okay. What's the gateway to Canaan?
Kosher and righteous doesn't mean the same thing.
No, it doesn't, does it?
So I'm just making observations so that the people there could, sometimes understand that words have different meanings, but they come together to the same answer.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. So we're on to 27. Let me scroll that up. Okay, so 27. He said to them, so said Hashem, the God of Israel, let them place every man his sword on his thigh and pass back and forth from gate to gate in the camp, and let them kill every man his brother, every man his fellow, and every man his relative. And you would think Rashi would have a lot more to say about that.
So said the Lord, the God of Israel. Now, where did he say this? He who slaughters a sacrifice to the gods shall be destroyed. So it was taught in the Mechilta, his brother from his mother, who was an ordinary Israelite and not a Levite, because the Levites, all of them came over.
Mm-hmm. So mine, it says, this refers to a half-brother from his mother.
Yep.
Half-brother from his mother. And he is not a Levite, Levi, but he is Israelite. Okay, so further commentary on this one basically says this from Tractate Yoma, Folio 66b, and as opposed to a brother who was a Levite, Rashi explains how Moses could have commanded the Levites to kill their brothers when the entire tribe did not participate in the sin, as Rashi noted above. Okay. Yeah, that commentary goes to the next one. So we're on to 20. No commentary on 28, so we'll go from 28 to 29. So 28, the Leviim did according to the word of Moshe, and there fell from the people about 3,000 men on that day. Verse 29, Moshe said, fill your hands this day to Hashem, for each man by his son and by his brother, that he may bestow upon you a blessing this day.
Initiate yourself, you who killed them, with this thing and with this act. You will initiate yourself to be servants or Kohanim to Hashem. For each man among you will initiate himself through his son and through his brother.
Okay, so further commentary on this one says, okay, again, in the version I have, it talks about, it says to fill their hands. Fill your hands. Okay. In yours, it actually says initiate yourselves. Mm-hmm. Okay, so further commentary on this one has to do with filling hands is an expression used for inauguration. See Rashi to 28:41 above. It was at this point that the Kohanim of the tribe of Levi became worthy of performing the sacrificial service of the firstborn who had acted as Kohanim up to this point, were rendered unfit although they continued to perform the service until the Mishkan was erected. So the firstborn were actually the priest. Mm-hmm. That's what it was, which is interesting because, if we go back to Abraham and Melchizedek, right? And he comes to bless. He is a priest of Hashem, and he comes to bless Aharon, or he comes to bless Abraham, and he blesses Abraham first, and then he blesses God. So the commentary says that the priesthood was taken away from him, which would pass now to Abraham's progeny, the firstborn. And the firstborn would be the priest. And then we have, Esau and all that other stuff as well. But when they come out of Mitzrayim, the firstborn are the ones who's supposed to be the priest. And it says here that they had continued doing their duties up to this point when that was taken away from them and given to the Kohanim, the tribe of Levi, the Kohanim, and the firstborn had to be ransomed.
True.
From that point on, because they lost their position. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the nice thing about doing these studies like this, because we can jump back to Bereshit and talk about this stuff.
I'm going to make a point now because we're coming up. I'm going to make a point now because we're coming up to the most important sentence that was written in the Torah.
Okay, so we're on to
number 30. Read it.
Okay. And it was on the next day, Moshe said to the people, "You have committed a great sin, and now I shall ascend to Hashem. Perhaps I can cleanse opposite your sin." Is that the end of it? Yep, that's the end of the verse. Okay.
And it came to pass on the next day that Moses said to the people,
Let me scroll that.
"You have committed a great sin, and now I will go up to Hashem, and I will see that if he will atone for your sin." And that's why God, this is one of the biggest discussions, because the only place we don't know where Moses is buried, that is the reason, that is the sentence, is because every time the Israelites committed a sin, Moses would go to God and say, "Please, please forgive them." So in the land of Israel now, if we knew where Moses' grave is, there would be a lineup long enough to go make the circumference of the earth. Because everybody would go and say, "Moses, Moses, please, I've committed so many sins. Can you ask God to forgive me?" So God said, "No, no, no. You commit the sin, you ask forgiveness. You come on Yom Kippur and put your fist to your heart and say, I'll hate. I sinned, whether I did it knowingly, unknowingly, willingly, unwillingly. Please, Hashem, forgive me." This is why God made sure that we do not know where Moses is buried.
Yeah, God does not want an intermediary between him and us.
You want forgiveness? Ask God.
Right, exactly. You don't have to go to anybody, you know?
No, I don't have to go to confession.
Right, right. So let's do one more verse. We'll do 31, and then we'll call it good for tonight. Okay, so Moshe returned to Hashem and said, "I implore, this people has sinned a great sin and thus made for themselves a god of gold."
A god of gold. Moses is saying to God, it was you who caused them to sin, huh? And for you lavished upon them gold and whatever they desired. What should they have done so as not to sin? This may be illustrated by a parable of a king who gave his son to eat and drink, dressed him up, hung a coin on his purse on his neck, and stationed him at the entrance of a brothel. What can the son do as not to sin?
That's an interesting analogy, isn't it?
Yeah, because but that's kind of enticing.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that's yeah. Okay, so let's see. Let's go back here to the further commentary for this one. Oh, basically, it's who can have the son do so and not sin? Rashi goes on to say from Tractate Berachot, folio 32a, Rashi explains why Moshe made a point of saying that the idol was of gold. Okay. Okay, but it's I mean, again, this is one of the things that we find interesting is that Moshe Rabbeinu had the chutzpah to be able to say that to Hashem. Hey, you caused them to sin. What are you getting mad at them for? You caused them to sin.
That's the wrong thing to say. Although God gave them gold and riches and this, that's no excuse for them to make a golden calf. That was Moses' mistake.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I just find it interesting that, Abraham, he negotiated with God for Sodom and Gomorrah. to negotiate it down to 10, all the way from 50 down to 10. Negotiating with God. I mean, that's that takes some chutzpah, right? And we have a number
A
of
lot of chutzpah.
we have a number of times like Moshe Rabbeinu actually goes to God. And man, the guy is lucky he walked away alive.
Because actually Moses asked God if he could see him.
Yeah.
That's a lot of baitzim.
Yeah. That's to put it mildly, but I mean, and then we have the thing that comes on later on that says, well, if you're not going with us, take me out of your book.
Oh, there's a couple of parts of the Moses' name never came up.
Oh yeah, it was specifically for that. I mean, it's right after that the next section doesn't have his name in it at all.
Yep.
But again, that's and it's because of that relationship that Moshe had with God, that I mean, and God even said, I talked to Moshe face to face, like friends. Yeah, you can say some things to friends that you wouldn't say to other people.
Correct.
So.
But this is a little slightly different. You're talking to God.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, what is it? The saying that familiarity breeds contempt.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe not so. Maybe not contempt in this case, but kind of give him take liberties. Let's say.
Tonight was a good night because I had my eye on the Aramaic, and the more I'm going to point out, the more the people in the chat room will learn and pick up some of the words. Because if you do pick up some of the words, it's good because then you know the meaning. And I always said, if you learn 2 Hebrew words a week or 3 Hebrew words a week, in 2 or 3 months you'll be able to put sentences together.
That's
in
right.
6 months to a year you'll speak Hebrew. Not perfectly.
I'll tell you what. If one of the biggest helps that you can do for yourself is get a siddur or get a chumash that's interlinear. Now let me show you what we have here. So it's word by word translation in here. And again, we've already talked about the subtleties of the translation in here, but as you read the prayers or you read the Torah or the HaTorah, you're going to pick up on these words because you're going to see it over and over again, and its interpretation is right below it.
Yep.
So I mean, it would be it'd be a great help for anybody who wants to understand what it is that they're reading, rather than just the like we typically have with the Hebrew on one side, we have the English on the other side. So anyway,
I really enjoyed tonight. This was good, and I apologize if I interrupted too many times with the Aramaic, but it's very important that you understand that there are tremendous difference in the translation, and it's in the translation, but not in the meaning. The meaning still comes out to the same thing, but in the translation it loses it.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's see. I'm going to turn you down, and we're going to go out, but stick around. I'll be back with you as soon as we're out. Okay, I want to thank everybody for being here this evening, and I hope you're getting something out of the study. I really do. If you are, let us know. This was I think it was a really good study tonight. So anyway, Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern is Kabbalat Mariv Shabbat service, and then Shabbat morning is 10 a.m. Shacharit and Musaf. And then Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern is Zeta Story Corner. Tuesday is the rabbis discuss at 8 p.m. Eastern, and then right back here next Wednesday for more of the Torah study in depth. Until then, everyone, we will simply say, Laila Tov.